baby steps. You know, just because there might be a zip line out there that's too big for you to tackle doesn't mean that there's not a smaller one out there. Just go ahead and do the research. Go ahead and try to do something that's similar until you feel comfortable trying to get into that one situation that you want to be in. So think outside the box and just use the tools that are available to you to make sure that you succeed, man.
I never grew up with educators that look like myself. So for
100.
I feel like honestly, like we are that new wave that make being wise, being smart, being educated cool, right?
Absolutely.
Wisdom is a powerful tool, but oftentimes we might neglect it because of who it's coming from. You feel me? But if we can chop it up with a young buck and really implant a seed, man, like it's more than just education at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome, 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 beautiful people. It is another edition of the Let's Grow Together podcast where
Oh yeah.
diverse individuals and communities come to serve, connect, and grow in the areas that they're most passionate about. Marcus, you know what time it is, man. Check in with the people. Let them know how you doing today.
What's up? What's up, family? I don't know about you, but that intro get me lit every time. I be out here. I ain't even no dancer, but I be out here getting to it. But what's up, family? Happy Tuesday. Happy to be back with y'all again as always. From a check-in standpoint, man, what has been new? What has been new? Been very intentional just with meditating each and every day, just taking time to be still. That's been a real big thing for me. I actually, wifey handed me a bracelet that says "Be still and know that I'm God." Right, the Psalms. And I've been really just holding on to that. So every morning, waking up, meditating, getting a little bit of a workout in, and just being appreciative. Because at this point in time of year with the organization, everything, it's a lot of moving pieces, and it's like you hear so much noise that you just need things to be still and be calm and be able to really sift through your thoughts. So it's been very intentional for myself. Last session we did just recently in Mount Pisgah, we had a conversation about healthy mind, healthy body. And that was one thing that brought it back top of mind. So we actually talked about being intentional with meditating. And we had a guest speaker who talked about being abusive from being a drunken, essentially. Like let's call it how it is. And he talked about how he was able to really change his state, and a lot of it just came through meditating and personal reflection. So again, I got a lot out of it. I've been applying it just to myself, the wifey, the first week of marriage. Again, earlier today, man, we was debating about something. I was like, "Babe, I want to be intentional, but I think you're starting to get an attitude. So I'm gonna leave you alone for a minute." And
Yeah.
it was funny because we were both kind of meditating in the midst of the attitude coming about, and we literally went our separate ways. And about 5 minutes later, she called me. She said, "Babe, come here." I said, "What's up, babe?" She said, "You was right. I had an attitude. Thank you for helping me be mindful." And we laughed about it, But just a small example of how we can actually apply some of the things we're learning.
Bro, it's funny because I was listening to your check in and I heard everything you saying, but I'm like, if this dude do not mention that he got married last Friday or whatever day it was, I'm like, I'm gonna have to be, you know what I'm saying, get into it. Cause I was like, you would do the whole check in. I'm like, the dopest stuff that you did, you don't even mention. But
Right, I'm. That's why be still. There's so many different moving
yeah,
pieces, but
yeah.
I thought we talked about that briefly on the last one, but for those who don't know, yes, me and my counterpart actually tied the knot. We are locked and loaded. Uncle Sam stamped us, so it is official. Me and my better half are fully in alignment and bonded, as they would say.
Yeah, yeah. So I think on the last part, you mentioned that it was happening. You was like, all right,
Yeah,
coming up,
yeah,
this is what we doing. And so, I just had to let our listeners know, like, you ain't just talking to talk, you actually making things happen. Um, but man, life is good, man. We actually connected offline. You got a young buck that's looking to get into the Turo business. So I had a great,
yeah.
great time having that conversation with you. And it's crazy how I'm attracting more people that's interested in getting in Turo. Cause I had to get an inspection today, bro, for one of the cars, and it's crazy how it's always an opportunity to character build. You know what I mean? It's
Mm,
always something happening. Bro, I had a 1 o'clock appointment with the guy. The guy didn't show up until 2:30, basically. So
mm.
as you can imagine, I'm sitting here waiting on the guy. I'm like, man, I wish I had my laptop because at least I could have been getting work done. But I didn't have my laptop, so I'm sitting here waiting on the guy. He pulls up late. Then when he pulls up, he then start at man. So you do Turo? Like, how many cars you got? How did you get started? Like he asked me, I'm like, bro, if you don't get to this inspection, like, uh, but uh, but man, then he gets in his car. I guess his phone died, so he's sitting in the car. I'm like, bro, if I'm out here for another 5-10 minutes waiting on this dude to get finished, bro, I'm gonna have a problem. But again, I stayed calm. I'm like, it's not helping nobody for me to get upset. But other than that, man, programs back in full fledged or in full motion, man. But something I realized is that our middle school and our freshmen and sophomores in high school, they need a little bit more love, bro, in terms of like
Mm.
the restorative practices, because some of them don't appreciate it. Because we had a session, I think if it wasn't this Monday, it was the Monday before last, and man, they were acting out, bro. But it was one of those things where I'm like, you're gonna look back on this a couple years from now, you're gonna truly appreciate it. But other than that, man, life is good, man. I'm blessed. I'm abundant. Similar to you practicing mindfulness, I've been trying to practice consistency
Mm.
in everything that I'm doing, but more uh, like not just with myself, but like speaking life into my partner, cause she's a mortician by trade, and so she deal with a lot of crazy stuff. So
Yeah.
she have a challenging case, and she'll come tell me about it, and I'm like, man, that's crazy. So I just kind of put it in the back of my head, like every morning I'm gonna say some words of encouragement to her, and so I said something to her yesterday, and she looked at me like, you was reading the Bible or something. Like, nah, man, it just came to me. It just came to me. This little scripture came to me. But I was, this morning I was on the more joking side. I said some, a little funny quote that me and her we laugh about. I can't say it on here because it's not appropriate. But she was just like, all right, but stay consistent with it. So,
Yeah.
I did that, man, and she's enjoying it. So I'm happy.
That's love. That's love. Hey, that counterpart energy is so vital. So making sure that we're doing what we need to do to point at them and develop them, and essentially just bounce off each other. Because there's times when we down, we ain't feeling it, and we looking at our partner to do the same thing.
Facts.
Me, man, lately we just been tired, bro. Like I don't know what it is. Like we just looked at each other and we was like, yo, like we need to do better. So
Yeah.
we even talking about eating healthier. We got a whole game plan for success
Bro, you
for it.
just you just made me think of something real quick, bro. Like, man, I literally just bought like a at home weight set, bro. Because I'm like,
Okay.
sometimes I don't feel like making it to the gym, bro. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I'm
Yeah.
getting up at 5, I go right back to sleep. So man, let me buy this little in house joint. So now even if I don't physically go to the gym, I can get it in at the crib. But yeah, man, I feel you on that, man. We finna take this vacation to Denver, man, and I think that's gonna help
Okay.
us recalibrate coming back. So we
I
on the
know
same
it
move
will.
as you, yeah. But
I
hey,
know it will.
shout out for us, man, for being there and building a positive relationship with our women. I gotta give us a round of applause real quick.
Yeah, cause I'm tired of all this ignorant music and this destroying relationships and black
Facts.
just collective for real.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a song that has man, Lily. I tell you, I hear this song once every day, and it's been dry. It's internally like really fucking with me, bro. Like I
yeah.
hate hearing it. But me and wifey kind of make a joke out of it because I
What
told her shit.
song
If
is it?
we
What song is it?
bro, I'm gonna have to look it up and provide it in the next episode because it's so ignorant that I turn it off every time I hear it. So
Do
I
you
never
know the Do
actually
you know the artist? Do you know the artist?
man no, but I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it while I
Okay.
get to talking because I need y'all to know that this is a very ignorant song. But me and wifey laughed and said, "Yo, if we would have been in college and we met, we'd probably be dancing with each other to it." So it's
Facts, 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 facts.
evolution. But let's go ahead and table all that good fun talk, man. But today we definitely have a special guest, somebody who's a part of our executive team. He's actually our VP, and he's actually my neighbor too, right? So the power of networking. This is James and I had the opportunity to connect, had a similar encounter with him, just watching and being observative and being open and receptive to actually one give somebody their flowers, and then two just see where the relationship can go. And this got us to this point, man, and I'm beyond appreciative for the universe for bringing us together because this is a powerful man with a great story. So Mr. J, can you come on out, Mr. Ramirez?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Hey
What's going
Jay,
on?
hey
What's going
Jay.
on?
So Jay is an avid listener as well too, man. So he is one of our tenured new guests, but definitely has some information to share with us today. So Jay, just to kind of open up, man. If somebody was to really not know you, say, "Yo, who is Jay?" If you were to give your elevator pitch and give us a little bit of insight, what would you say, brother?
First and foremost, I always say I'm a father. That's my main goal in life to be a good father and just point my kids in the right direction. I'm a passionate person with everything that I do. And I'm overall just a person that's here to learn and just obtain knowledge from everybody that I can. I'm just a laid back person that's an open book and just want to spread love to everybody, man. That's all I'm about.
Sounds kind of similar to the "Let's Grow Together" thing. You know, see how we did that, right? But I want to dive into that background a little bit more. So I
Yeah.
know just from prior experience, right? Military really played a vital role in just your foundation in general. Can you give us a little bit of insight about kind of where you serve and how the military has really just ingrained a lot of different principles in you apply today?
Absolutely. So I served in the U.S. Army for about 18 plus years. I started in 1997 from Puerto Rico, where I initially enlisted at. It took me all over the world, East Coast predominantly here in the United States. I lived in Germany. I lived in, excuse me, I lived in Italy. I lived in Japan, and I lived in Korea. Numerous tours overseas to Iraq and Afghanistan, and of course, just those 18 years, pretty much as I've always said, and I tell a lot of young people, it turns you into a man quick. It kind of forces you to join adulthood, whether you want it or not. There's always the partying that the military comes with. There's always the good times, but at the end of the day, it's a mission, it's a job, and you have to jump on that on board immediately. Otherwise, you're left behind. And if you're no good at your job, then the military doesn't need you. So that's pretty much what built my base for the 18 years and has pretty much put me to where I'm at right now and has taught me the tools that I'm using going forward at my age at this point.
Man, appreciate you sharing that. And man, first and foremost, man, thank you for your service. I know that being in the military is a lot of times it's a choice, right? And I'm just interested in knowing like what led you down that particular path.
Well, I was currently at the time in 1996, I was attending Auburn University, and my college sweetheart and I unfortunately got pregnant at the time. So it was one of those things to where I had to step up and become the father, become the parent, and become the provider for my family at the time. So while I was, of course, going to school in Auburn, thankfully I was able to enlist when I went home back to Puerto Rico for my vacation. And thankfully I was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, which was only about a 45-minute drive to Auburn University. So simultaneously, I was father, student, and soldier all at once at the age of 19, which was very overwhelming. But that's what pushed me to go ahead and strive and make it happen, just being a father at the time.
Mm.
Dang, boy, I had Avery at what, 20, 22, 23. I was a little bit more set, man. I can't really imagine 19 and that kind of that college crush, transitioning to that from that relationship. I want to know a little bit about what was that like, kind of those early hurdles that you experienced being a young father, coming in the military, managing that, a relationship, school, all at the same time as well. What did that look like, and how were you able to kind of manage those things on your plate?
Oh man, it was tough. One, first and foremost, financially, it was very difficult because, of course, trying to go to school and driving 45 minutes, 2, 3 days out of the week, providing for a family. So financially, that was the biggest hurdle first and foremost. We were not married, so living on base was not an option. So predominantly everything was coming out of pocket when it came to expenses outside of our living arrangements. And just the constant go, 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 man. I mean, long hours studying until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning just to be up again at 5 o'clock in the morning and do my job as a soldier. And at the same time, helping her with the baby. We were young, so I would say that mentally we were not developed the way that we needed to be. So there was a lot of arguing between us and a lot of strife and just back and forth because it was difficult for us. We were both babies, as we could say, at the time. So it was just very big hurdles that at the time I would say we were not able to surpass as a couple. Individually, as parents, we made it happen, but together we definitely failed. And that was definitely the end of our relationship due to the fact that there was so much stress on us.
Mm.
The
That's
relationship only lasted the relationship only lasted about 2 years due to all the stress.
yeah. Man, that's real, man. I just kind of reflect on myself as a 19-year-old. Like I don't have any kids, but I just remember going off to school and having to, take 18, 19 credit hours, getting up 5 o'clock, doing my thing. But it's just like to add a kid in the mix, and then also add being a soldier in the mix is crazy. I just kind of think like I think the fact that you all were able to at least keep the important thing, which was the kid. So
Absolutely.
you mentioned kids plural. Like how many kids do you have?
Well, that was my first daughter. She's now 24, and I've had two boys since then. Now 18-year-old and a 9-year-old. Those are the children that live with me here in North Carolina.
Gotcha. And And how are they like? I guess the question I want to ask, like, was it hard when you and the partner split up, and like, were you still like visiting frequently? Like, were you still making those trips?
Well, the daughter at the time shortly moved to Puerto Rico, where we're from. So
Gotcha.
that was difficult for me because after I left Fort Benning, Georgia, I ended up moving to Korea. So one, that's 4,000 miles away, a 12-hour difference when
Yeah.
it comes to phone calls. So what ended up happening was my mom ended up going to court with my ex, and fortunate for the family, she was able to go ahead and gain parental rights, where she was able to have my daughter every other weekend, every month. So
Mm,
that was the extent of visitation for her connecting with my family. And of course, in my case back then, it was all via phone calls until I would come home to visit.
mm,
So the interaction with her at that time was very limited, but I was consistent with it to ensure that I was in her life.
gotcha.
Awesome, awesome. Shout out to my Dukes for coming through as well too. My Dukes always say the
Absolutely.
day. So I want
Absolutely.
to talk. I want to talk a little bit about. That was kind of the beginning of the career. Let's kind of speed it up to kind of where you are now. So I know
Okay.
originally, as we mentioned, really started out military base, having the child young, really just maturing a little bit faster than the traditional 19-year-old to where you are
Yes.
now. Now you're able to really give back and empower, people who are in a similar position to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your work with Wounded Warrior?
Absolutely. So I am a program director for Wounded Warrior Project here in North Carolina, to where I cover North Carolina and South Carolina. And my title is called the Home and Community Based Services Program Director. And what I do is predominantly work with wounded service members that have traumatic brain injuries to a severe state or life threatening illnesses in a recreational therapy type of environment. So myself and my staff, we take them out into the community to go ahead and socialize, and of course be involved in part of the communities. Nine times out of 10, these are veterans that are sitting at home, whether it be with mental health disabilities or guys that are just physically unable to get out of the house on their own. And in order to give their caregivers, some type of respite care, because of course they are providing them service around the clock, myself and my staff come into play. And in a recreational environment, we take them out into the community.
Man, it's so crazy because like everybody that we bring on this podcast, in some shape or form, they serve. You started off in the military serving the country. You then, you transition as we go into your story about the Wounded Warriors. But like, what led you to that? Because obviously, the military ties. But like, why Wounded Warriors?
Well, myself, I suffered a traumatic brain injury back in 2012. And unfortunately for me back then, I was in a coma for 2 months.
Mm,
So I know what it's like to be in a situation to feel not necessarily useless, but helpless. And dependent on others, us being soldiers tends to just take our morale, take our character completely
yeah,
away because it's not who we are. As soldiers, we're taught to be strong, just definitely go 100% and never quit. So when you find yourself in that situation where you're depending on others, you feel very defeated. So I told myself back then I would never allow this if I had it within my power for another soldier to go through this. So that's where I come into this job with the years that I did of nonprofit work just on the side. After several years of doing that, this organization, Wounded Warrior Project, reached out to me and offered me the job based off of recommendations and, of course, my work in the community already at the time.
That's awesome, man. Your passion definitely kind of oozes out, and I would say you are very untraditional when it comes to some of the things in what you're doing. You're not just sitting around. They're not doing anything that's boring. They're really getting out and
So,
doing some things that are very much engaging, things that are very much stimulating, and things that are really going to empower them ultimately to really take back control. I'd like to talk about some of the things in which you've done because I'll kind of speak on it. Jay is our contact for the equine therapy, which was exposing us to the horses, which black man in my shoes, I would have never done. but Jay is kind of that individual who pushes me consistently out of my comfort zone. And I know if he's doing it for me and making an impact on myself and the mentees we service, I know he's doing it on a drastic scale when it comes to, some of the individuals in which you're servicing. So outside of the equine therapy, tell us a little bit about some of the activities you're doing with some of these veterans to really help empower them.
absolutely. So, I mean, when it comes to the therapy that I go ahead and, of course, put onto my guys and my staff, I use an adventure approach. What's the point of sitting around and building stuff with popsicle sticks when there's so many other options, as Marcus just said. So, for example, just about 3 months ago, I took one of my guys skydiving out here in Rayford, North Carolina. This guy has multiple sclerosis. He's been in a chair for about 12 years. The guy could barely move his torso or his lower body, but I still got him up in a plane, and the man jumped out of a plane. So, along with stuff like that, I'm an avid kayaker, so I take my guys out into the water quite a bit. I've taken them surfing. Let's see what else. I've taken one gentleman up to New Hampshire where we've snowmobiled over 50 miles between the Canadian and U.S. borders. We've gone scuba diving. Like I said, we've been surfing. We've been parasailing. We've gone out on 100-foot boats with another group of veterans, and we've gone deep sea fishing till we've brought back thousands of pounds of fish. So I mean, it's just numerous and just countless activities that we can go out there as long as we challenge ourselves and go out there and seek them. Because it's like I always tell my fellow veterans, stuff's not going to come to you. We have to go out there and find it. It's not going to be given to us. So we have to be creative. We have to use the resources that are in place, whether it be through the community, the Department of Defense, or the VA, and just go out there and use it. I take my guys out to cycling events. We've done one in Cape Cod. We've done one in Fort Lauderdale, to where we cycled from Hollywood, Florida, all the way to Key West, and that was a total of 50 miles. And this was with a warrior that has a severe brain injury, and he's blind. So imagine a blind guy cycling for 50 miles, not knowing where he's going, but he puts the he puts his trust in me for me to guide him to make sure that he successfully completes his mission. Because at the end of the day, that's the approach that I always come with these guys. You're still a soldier. At the end of the day, it's a mission. Don't quit.
Mm.
Jay's kind of like that dope uncle,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
dope uncle everybody want to hang out with.
Hey, he low key unintentionally said a bar. Like I don't know if he peeped it, but he said a bar. He said, although the guy was like actually blind, he said, this guy is putting his faith in me to give him direction on where to go. And I think about mentorship, right? The things that we do with our youth, like they are putting their faith in us to get them to the destination that they want to reach. But it's interesting. When Marcus was sending over the show notes earlier or yesterday, I started doing some research into like the equine therapy. And I was like, it was confusing me a little bit, but it makes a lot more sense now after you explain like all the different things that you do. And it makes me think of some of our programming that we do with our youth. Like obviously we do the restorative practices. We teach them about consciousness, the mind, the subconscious, and conscious mind. But we realized early that information alone does not move a person, right?
Right.
So we started incorporating like unique experiences. So what you're talking about, the kayaking, the skydiving, and shout out to you because I'm not skydiving. You know what I mean? For you to convince somebody that's already disabled to skydive, that's amazing. Like I'm even Marcus, I told Marcus the story about me going like ziplining and punking out and not ziplining because I was afraid of the zipline. And so I just think about that. But man, like we really hit we cracked the Da Vinci Code in terms of like really impacting people's lives. And it's that getting them out and doing things that they wouldn't normally do and exposing them to different things, letting them know that even if you're a youth, you don't have these options available to you, or you don't think you do, or if you're disabled and you don't think you can still move around and do different things, like these things are out there. So shout out to
Yeah,
you.
Nah,
absolutely, man. Go
I
ahead,
definitely
Marcus.
align with that, and that's one thing Jay just brings to the team is like that external perspective. Like Jay is very militant, but Jay is very fun and outgoing, and even just introducing us to equine therapy. Like you gotta imagine, like Brett Casey, like you got some trill young individuals, out there doing stuff in the middle of nowhere, and we like, yo, what is this? Like what's about to happen? And all
I
of
mean,
us,
not to mention Antonio with his traumas, you
and,
know?
and Antonio too, bro. We have somebody on the team who was actually kicked in the jaw as a young man from a horse that broke his jaw.
Yeah.
So imagine, and Chantel, who's just fearful of horses and just big. So imagine all of us walking in there. I'm talking about like you would have thought we was at a party in high school, just posted up against the wall, like bro, stuck, frozen. But over about a period of a 5 to 10 minutes, bro, everybody was free flowing. Everybody found a
Yeah,
horse they really gravitated to, and everybody was really, I mean, really in alignment with the horses. Casey actually mentioned that he told the horse, "Hey, I'm a little bit fearful, but I trust you." The horse ended up right beside him and was on his hip for the rest of the activity. Like, bro, it was crazy. And this is all props to Jay. Jay is kind of that outside the bubble. He's gonna kind of stir it up, and he's gonna make sure that we get some form of impact out of it. And I gotta give you kudos, bro, because, bro, I'm kind of like fearful of horses, and I didn't realize it till I was standing right in front of a horse. But you were able to help me kind of get over that trauma. And I'd love to talk a bit more about how the horse. James, it's not funny because I was
No,
really out there.
no, no.
Oh.
It's not even just the horse. I
You're
remember
just
me and
trying to picture him with the horse.
Nah, not even that. Me and Marcus had a conversation about like rodents, like little mice and stuff, and I remember
I
how
can't,
he was reacting to that. And so yeah,
throughout all the stuff I've been through, I don't want to deal with rodents or snakes, man. No, thank you.
yeah, yeah. But it's like, man, it's like when people are like scared of spiders. Like I'm like, yeah, if it's a tarantula, oh yeah, I'm not messing with. But like them little bitty things, like if you wanted to, you could just squash it. You know what I mean? And just get it over with. Like a little rat, put a trap down, it's gonna do what it do. Well, not a rat, but a
Oh,
mouse. Yeah, man.
See, the horse is on the other side though. That thing would crush. And again, I'm thinking from Antonio perspective. I never got touched by a horse. It never hurt
Yeah.
me in any shape or form. But the fact that this thing is so massive, it's just the
right.
uncontrollable element. Like I
But
was not feeling it.
but so let me ask you this, Marcus. Would you skydive?
I have before, but I lost the dare, and like that was the only reason I wouldn't do it off jump. Like, hey,
Okay.
it's Thursday. Let's go
So
skydive. Hell
have
no.
you have
Yes,
you
he'll
ever
do it again. I'll push him to it. He'll do it again.
yeah. So I'm just trying to think like what like Marcus, what's the like most adventurous thing you've ever done? I'm interested in knowing that, Marcus.
Probably skydiving, bro. Like
But
that's
okay,
the.
nah, because that don't really count. You said it was a dare, but like I'm saying, like of your own free will, you was like, all
Oh
right,
no, I don't do that. I don't do that. Nah. So, bro, it's to the point. Let me give you some content, bro. Even when we took kids from Parks and Rec, it's called like Mount some huge mountain where it's hiking, and I'm talking about you can look over the whole city. Like, bro, I said, hey kids, if any of y'all are fearful and don't want to go, I'm here with you. Y'all want to stay with me? And bro, I taught like 8 kids in the stand, bro. I was like, cool, stay. Nah, bro, hell no. If
I
it's not, I'm not with none of that. Yeah,
so
nah, that ain't
yeah,
for me.
so I can my point is no then because I was like if you did that, how could you be scared of a mouse
Hell no.
or but yeah, we need less Marcuses and more Jays in terms of being a little bit more adventurous.
So my mentality is we only live once. Tomorrow's
Facts.
not guaranteed. So live for the moment and do what you can while you can. It's like this whole hesitation of skydiving, of swimming with sharks or whatever it may be. You don't know if you're ever going to have the opportunity to do it again. Do it.
So
I don't want the opportunity to do that shit. But I feel where you're coming from, but nah,
yeah.
I'll pass, brother.
So Jay, where are you? Like are you originally from Puerto Rico? Or are you from somewhere in the
No,
states?
I was actually born in New York and I left for Puerto Rico when I was like 4.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
so okay, New York. That's not bad, man. But I was
I
just
mean,
thinking.
I don't have an ounce of New York in me, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were 4 when you left, so it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking that because being in the military, you say you moved around so much. Do you think
Oh
that
yeah.
because you experienced the cultures in those different places that helped, like that aided that adventurous part of you?
No, I've always been adventurous ever since I was a kid. I grew up surfing.
Okay.
So I think that's the base of it. I grew up surfing, I grew up skateboarding. So I was that kid that was never afraid to go down that 10, 12-foot ramp or take on that 5, 6 foot wave 100 feet away from the shore. I mean, growing up, we were very adventurous because being from a single parent household, we didn't have that supervision, so we were out and about just doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Just being kids, man. We would get on our bikes, we would get on our skateboards, and be gone 2 towns away. My mom not even knowing it. So the adventure part came from being a teenager and a child in Puerto Rico. We would go base jumping at the rivers in the middle of the day. We would go surfing. Like I said, we would go scuba diving. We would go snorkeling in 50 feet water and no supervision. So
Yeah.
that's just how free and able we were able to enjoy our childhood in Puerto Rico.
Sheesh.
I think
Snorkeling.
that's a see. Look, now you looking like me, James. But
Well, see, here's the thing though, because like it's just certain stuff. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm like Jay, like you only live once, right? So why not
Yeah.
make the most of it? Like I don't want to be that person that's 80, 90 years old looking back like, dang, I wish
And
I
have a
would have.
bucket list.
Yeah, like I
By
wish
the
I
time
would have zip
you
line.
graduate,
Like
the bucket list needs to be empty.
yeah, because there was this person, and I love giving credit, but I cannot think of who it was. But they was like, imagine being on your deathbed and you see like instead of the ghost of Christmas past, but there's like a part of your life that's standing around the bed like, I wish I would have started that business. I wish I would have skydived. I wish I would have invested. Like,
Les Brown.
okay, it was like, okay, yeah, Les Brown, and it was just like I don't want to be that guy. So maybe it's not snorkeling because I can't swim currently, but like maybe it's man, we're going to Denver, man, and
Jay, we need to go push him when you go
so
surfing. It's okay.
nice.
Absolutely.
So
Yo, but
so so just to tell y'all a funny story, since I kind of like quote unquote embarrassed Marcus a little bit with the mouse comment. I remember being a kid. And my sisters took me to the beach, and they grabbed me by my arms and my legs, and they're grabbing me, trying to like throw me in the water. When I tell you I had a panic attack, I'm like, lifeguard, help me, bruh. Bruh, the lifeguard was not helping me. I'm like, you a lifeguard? I'm like, I'm obviously fearful for my life, right? They
you
just
weren't
dropped.
in the water. That's what they pay him for.
You know what? That might have been it. And they dropped me like right by where the water started at. And I'm just like, I talked to my sisters about that, and I'm like, yeah, like, I don't get why you were so. I'm like, but I can't swim. I thought the current was gonna take me away. so so yeah. But until I learn how to swim, there's no snorkeling in my future.
Yo,
So
but to
what
be
I would challenge you to snorkel because you can't swim and just do it in a shallower form, right? That's
right,
something.
right.
Jay, what were you about to say? I know you're about to comment on that.
I was gonna say, to be full transparent. I mean, now that I'm 46 years old, and my kids are definitely growing. Part of my routine and being adventurous the way that I am right now is wanting to share that with my boys before it's too late.
Yeah,
So not now that I have the freedom of not being married and just being a single father and just committing my time to them and only them, that's what pushes me even more right now. Like Marcus says, that's the base of everything, me being a father.
yeah,
So
Hmm.
everything that I do, regardless of whether it's with Roots, my veterans, or throughout the community, I always have that mind frame of being a father first. So that's where my extreme adventurous ways now come into play, and it's
yeah.
wanting to get them in that habit so they won't lose out on those opportunities.
It's interesting you
I
say
love that.
that. It's really interesting you say that because I have conversations with my lady, and I'm like, yo, we got to take swimming classes at some point because I would hate myself if my kid fell in the water, couldn't swim, and I couldn't save him. Like that would like I just think about that from that perspective. Like if I ever was faced with that situation and I couldn't save my own kid, like I don't know what I would do with myself. So um similar to you, like I would do it for my kids. So maybe I need to switch my perspective a little bit. I'm glad we're having this
I mean,
conversation.
my 9-year old's been surfing since like the age of 4, man.
See, but that's because y'all, you from Puerto Rico, man. I think it's a little bit different, man. We
Yeah,
got lakes in
I'm
yeah.
Chicago.
gonna surf anywhere I go, James. I've surfed in Costa Rica. I've surfed in Japan. I've surfed in Australia. I've surfed in New Zealand. I've even surfed in a river in Germany, man. It's
Yeah.
just one of those things that no matter where I'm at, I'm always gonna try to find that adrenaline rush when it comes to the water because that's what I grew up doing and that's what I love.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's based on kind of that environment where you originally started from, right?
Yeah,
My
yeah.
environment, we rode bikes, so we weren't thinking about surfing. We
Facts.
wasn't.
Facts.
We was. So I think that's
You up and
where
down
me being.
the mountain.
Yeah, we might ride a bike down a hill going fast and put a little cans on the back, thinking we on a
On a
motorcycle, and that's
motorcycle.
doing something to me, right?
Hey.
I ain't do none of that other stuff, but I think that is dope, and I love how you're so grounded when it comes to just being a father that I know that opens up doors for you doing things that you might not traditionally do. If they want to do it, you're open to it. I think that
Absolutely.
really applies to myself when it comes to Avery. If Avery wants to do something, I'm open to it. We could do it. Let's explore it. But outside that, I'm good where I'm at. But I think that's just the different in the core foundation. But I want to ask a little bit too. While we were doing the equine therapy, again, James and the AGGFM is really big when it comes to the restorative justice. So we were able to implement a peace circle and some things that we've done pretty consistently going forward with the college student retreat, with the executive team retreat, and you really started it off. I think you really set the tone. Would you be open to sharing a little bit of insight about what you discussed and also how that has impacted you and how you're really giving back to Roots because of that?
Absolutely. So the discussion opened up with me dealing with my divorce from these last 4 years. Like I said, I'm a single father now, and it's because my former spouse and I of 19 years we split back in 2019. And she's involved in the children's lives, but predominantly it's me, simply because that's the way the children have wanted it, and I'm completely all in. I'm their dad, and I'm not going to turn my back on them. So we were discussing our traumas, and part of the trauma was losing my family after building what we had established for 19 years. Just losing your why, because that was my why at the time. Coming home to my wife, to my kids, that was my whole motivation to doing everything that I was doing, regardless of what it was. So whether it was good or whether it was bad, at the end of the day, they were here, and that's what kept me focused. That's what kept me grounded. And dealing with that loss, here it is, 4 years later. We've moved on individually as people, but I still have that void, not necessarily of having a wife, but just that family nucleus and seeing us all happy. The fact that my children are missing that, it bothers me to this day. The fact that they can't come home and realize that, hey, they have a mother and father that are waiting for them and love them simultaneously versus living in separate households, bouncing 2 days to mom's and being at dad's house for 5 or 6 days at a time. So that is one of the traumas that I'm still dealing with. But because I have my children, it keeps me grounded, it keeps me focused, and it gives me a reason to keep moving forward. And forward is the only direction that I'm going to go. So when it comes to that, that's just what keeps me going, and that's going to be the only reason that I'm going to keep going forward right now until they become men.
And it was a two-part question. So we asked, what is the biggest trauma you're facing, and how are you coping with that as well? What was your answer to that, Jay? As far as the coping.
Well, the way that I'm coping with it, of course, like I said, is being a father, full force, 100%. Using Roots as a base to be able to go ahead and provide that guidance and that leadership and that mentorship to these young men as my boys are growing now. So I don't want to lose that factor and be able to not pass on knowledge to our youth. Once my boys are men, I'm still going to have that opportunity to pass that along. So that's the reason that I joined Roots. Marcus is always asking me, what is your why when it comes to Roots? And it's just being able to give that paternal knowledge and leadership and guidance to these young men. So that's how I'm coping with it right now.
Yeah, that's that's phenomenal. I think many of us, like, we get into these roles that we're in, like serving the community and just giving back to the people that that I wanted to just say look like us, but just giving back into different people. I think we do it just because either we lack that or we had that example growing up. I always give the example, like, I had reverse role models. Like, I had people that I wanted to be nothing like growing up. So when I got into the mentorship space, I'm like, I want to be everything, not everything per se, but I want to be a model for these kids to show them, like, man, you can be anything that you want to be and do, if you really just put your mind to it. So I just think, in terms of you, Jay, like, I hear about the adventurous side. I hear about, coming from the single parent household, but then going on these adventures, and I see all of that tying into everything that you do with the Wounded Warriors, with Roots, and then even with your kids, man. Like, it's truly special, bro. Shout out to you, because you even got me like thinking, like, yeah, maybe I should do, what I'm saying, maybe I should do, not kayaking because it's still water. Maybe I should hop on that zip line, man, and really get to it.
Hey, it's some new dates for you and your lady, man. You would never know.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
I challenge you, James. I dare. Now let me not. Let me stop. This ain't elementary school. But
Well, I challenge
I
him to do
challenge.
this. I
Yeah.
challenge him to do this. Once he's done with his Denver trip, he needs to go to Puerto Rico and kayak or snorkel in the bioluminescent bay with his lady at night.
Mm, he said
You're
at
gonna be in
night.
5 feet of water, bro. You're gonna be in 5 feet of water.
Okay.
Just imagine a nice lake or bioluminescent bay looking over the ocean where everything is just microorganisms that are like neon at night.
Yeah.
He gonna
Okay.
pop
Hey,
the question. That's where he gonna
hey.
pop the question.
Hey, if I make it out, I'm like, you know what? I'm alive. Adrenaline pumping. Let's do it. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Hey, Jay is very influential, man. He had you ready to jump off the cliff. Be careful now. Be careful now.
No, we ain't got no clips in Puerto Rico, bro.
Nah. Nah, I feel it though, but nah, I appreciate the perspective, man. You definitely add a lot of value, and you again that out of the box kind of thinking and mentality is very very vital for a lot of youth in which we service. Because as I mentioned, even the equine therapy alone was something that I never would have ever experienced myself doing. But oftentimes it takes us really being that template to jump off the porch to be able to expose another young man I actually got a call coming back to the crib before this, and there was a few of the college students asking could they do just that, right? The picture we were able to really paint for them inspired them to say, you know what, that's something I've never done, but I meditate often, and I'd love to see how that can be impactful on us. So kind of that each one teach one being the example has been extremely impactful, man. But I want to talk a little bit more just about why mental health is so vital for you. I know again in the veteran community, being in Fayetteville, the Fort Bragg / Fort Liberty, however I want to go about it, right? Mental health is something that's always talked about. You're a huge advocate when it comes to the mentoring arena for that, right? And even from your own personal experiences, your own journeys, I just want to get a little bit of insight of how you're really leveraging some of these coping mechanisms in the form of equine therapy, of of kayaking and things of that nature for you from a mental health standpoint as well.
Well, as Marcus said, with my own PTSD and my own story, being in the military for those 18 years, we constantly had tours going to Iraq and Afghanistan. So I came back a different person once I left for Afghanistan in 2002. And when I say a different person, I mean I was not emotionally connected to anyone at the time after returning, because even my own family told me, you lack sympathy, you lack empathy. And for the longest time, I couldn't even tell my own kids that I loved them. Why? Because I was disconnected. I was disconnected from my emotions and just disconnected from anything in society when it came to being outside of the military. So, excuse me. The fact that I'm an advocate for mental health and so big on it is because of my own personal journey. Upon returning from Afghanistan and Iraq in 2004, I became a heavy alcoholic, to where it put a big damper on my family. It put a big damper on my relationship with my ex spouse. And going forward, now that I'm 12 years sober, I'm looking back and reflecting and being able to realize where my mistakes lied. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. I want to make sure that doesn't happen again going forward. So that's the journey that I'm on right now. Just learning how to deal and cope with my personal relationships with my own family, giving up alcohol. Those are barriers that I had to overcome over years of therapy and self reflection, and just finding things to keep myself mentally, emotionally, and physically engaged, to where I've been able to build the toolbox to get where I'm at now. And of course, that's what I want to go ahead and project to these youngsters and in the community in general, man. So when it comes to my veterans, I have somewhat of a motto: just because you're disabled doesn't mean that you're not able. You're fully capable. Just because you're sitting in a wheelchair or you're missing your eyesight doesn't mean that you're dead. So live life to the fullest, and regardless of your circumstances, like I said, live that adventurous life. You never know if it's going to be your last moment.
That's super real, and it's crazy when you think about it. The people that have gone through the most usually are the best mentors, right? Well, not all the time, but I can see a lot of I can see that in a lot of situations where it's like man, I went through all of this stuff, and now I'm on the other side. So now I have a story to tell. Now I have something of value to show you. Like, you don't have to be perfect to live this thing called life and to be a productive citizen. Like, it's phenomenal, bro. But as we kind of close out, I'm trying to think, cause again, you've inspired me, but for those people in the world that's like, I don't know if I should try this. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I can afford it. Like, what advice would you give to those type of people about just living their life to the fullest and taking advantage of this one opportunity we have?
Baby steps. Just because there might be a zip line out there that's too big for you to tackle doesn't mean that there's not a smaller one out there. Just go ahead and do the research. Go ahead and try to do something that's similar until you feel comfortable trying to get into that one situation that you want to be in. So think outside the box and just use the tools that are available to you to make sure that you succeed, man.
That's real.
Or just get you a J, somebody you trust who's gonna push you and who has been there and is open to it. On a serious
There
note,
you
though,
go. There you go.
it's we always talk about the importance of our circle, and I think you always need somebody who's a little bit more of that outlier who doesn't
Yeah.
have the traditional same thought process everybody else in your circle. Somebody who might be a little bit more experienced with some of the things that you consider off the wall, but when you hear how it's impacted them, how they've been able to develop from it, man. When I talk to Jay has so many ideas, and I'm like, bro, what? Like, why? Like, or how? Like that. That's oftentimes my questions: how, what, and why? Like, but when Jay provides his additional insight to it, it's like, damn, I should have thought about that. That's awesome. And that's why it's so vital just to have a diverse circle. Lily, I told you, I met this man. I was cutting my grass, And I admired his car, right? I said, Dad, that's a nice car. And literally just started small conversation. But the more that I got to know this individual and to see how, in my mind, originally how extreme he was, I said, yo, like I can learn something from this brother, right? He's a little bit more tenured, a little bit more senior than me, but he's living life. And that was one thing that I was able to see from the outside and gravitated me towards him. And now we're able to collaborate to do stuff for the mentees, but even do stuff for myself that I would have never done. And I'm so appreciative for the connection. But just from a personal note, what I got out of the relationship I've been able to build with Jay is sometimes we are our own worst enemy and we're in our way, right? There's opportunities we see in front of us. There's opportunities for collaboration in front of us. But for some reason, we just don't want to take that leap of faith. And oftentimes that can hinder you long term.
Hey, so it's a couple things. So first, I want to ask a question, but it's a couple things that was said that I want to comment on. So is this because you talked about a neighbor a lot on this the podcast? Is this the neighbor? I'm just
This
making
this the
sure.
No, no,
neighbor.
no. You were talking about Kiko at first.
Okay, it's a lot of neighbors. We got a squad over here, man.
Because I've
Cause
heard all the podcasts. I think you've referred to me once, but the other times have been Kiko.
so were you the one that he borrowed chairs from? Was this that?
Mm.
Okay,
You
so
see,
That-
that's Kiko.
that's-
That's
that's
Kiko.
Kiko.
The other
okay,
guy.
so okay, the one with the dog. Who's the one with the dog?
With
Is
the
that-
dog, that's Kiko.
That's me. That's
Okay,
me.
okay,
Oh, that's
okay.
Kiko with the dog. Okay.
Got you. But it's funny, Jay, that you mentioned like zip lining because like in Chicago we had one. I think they said the length of the zip line was as long as the Sears Tower in Chicago, which
Okay.
is now it's the Willis Tower, but that's the tallest building in Chicago. But that's it, right? So I told my girl like, man, I gotta go back. I gotta do it. Like, it's no way that I can't. It's no reason that I shouldn't have done it if you did it, right? So then we end up we going planning a trip for Denver, and we're looking up zip lining. And they like, oh, zip line tour. You could try 6 of our boy. Listen, I was ready to do 1. I ain't trying to do 6, bro. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna waste my money, right? But something
But
that
the difference lies, James, that those are going to be shorter zip lines.
I can't.
It's going
But
to be a course that you're going to be climbing trees and on
so
hooks and all that stuff.
here's
So
the
you're
here's
going
the
to be in
interesting
about
part.
2 hours.
So it's not really the height that scares me, right? Because went to Vegas, I was in the stratosphere. I looked down, saw the crap. We went to it's called the Forge Lamont here in Chicago. It's in Lamont, Illinois, but I did the obstacle course. I was like, it's not the height, it's the fact that I have to travel. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I gotta travel on this thing. Like, and again,
Look,
like,
man, if my 8-year-old can do it, you can do it.
see, but that's the thing. That's the thing. And that was the second point that I was gonna make because Marcus said that we are our own worst enemy. We get in our
Yeah.
own way, and the reason that it is, Bob Proctor, he talks about the terror barrier, and what it is that because we get so conditioned, and again, as adults, we know too much. Like, we think too much. Like, we think about the outcome, the bad part. Like, I'm thinking the
You
entire
know the
time.
bad consequences, absolutely.
Exactly. And as a kid, they like, oh, fun. Like, I'm going fast on this thing. Like, they're not thinking about it. And so when Marcus said that, like, yeah, 1000%, like, it's me holding me back from doing the stuff. Like, it's nothing outside of myself, but something that I
Get
learned.
yourself a J. Get yourself a J, man.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah.
But something that I think is super dope is that people aren't scared of heights. They're scared of the fall. When you really think about it. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's the thing that about fear is like it's false expectation appearing real.
But in my case, you know what it is when it comes to fear, James? I've faced fear so many times being in combat that little things like a zip line or jumping off a cliff is secondary to me, man.
Yeah, but
I've
even
seen the outcome of death and it's not pretty. So
yeah,
what could be worse?
that's real. But even sometimes, like, I know that's a drastic example, but I'm even just thinking like sometimes because you might be sleep deprived, you're out there in the jungle doing your thing, you perceive a threat as something, but even that perceiving that thing could be life or death when you're in the military. Like, just
perceiving that is what keeps you alive, believe it or not.
No, for sure. So I'm like, the military is a very extreme example. I'm just thinking like on the average person. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, fear doesn't really exist. It's our expectation of what's gonna happen that limits us from doing the stuff. And I know that, and I still am fearful of zip line.
We're all the worst enemies, absolutely.
1000%, 1000%.
It's the thought process around it. But squad, I hope y'all got a lot out of this conversation. As I mentioned, man, Jay is my neighbor, this is my partner, but this is a phenomenal man who definitely had the testimony when it comes to overcoming trauma. leveraging it to really be a strength opposed to a weakness, and then also really being able to impact others around him through his journey and through his experiences. He is very overly blunt and transparent, and I love that about him. He does not mind giving you the raw truth, and that's why a lot of our college mentees really gravitate towards him as well. So James, just in closing, I want to just kind of ask you: is there anything else you want to say to Jay, or is there anything that you actually got out of this conversation that we can apply more so to individuals from or within our age frame and demographic?
Baby steps, man. It's baby steps. Like man, my own personal example is I'm not doing the 6 zipline tour, but I will do one. It's baby steps. And I think the more repetition that you get, whatever it is, like the repetition of the thing will make you more comfortable with it. But you got to take the first step. Martin Luther King said, "Faith is taking the first step when you can't see the full staircase." So, in terms of the fear that we have or anything that we want to do, you got to put one foot in front of the other and get to it.
Absolutely.
I love it. I resonate with that. We'll be sending y'all some pictures of kayaking and me even riding the horse here soon. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
But
Marcus the equestrian. You gonna be
There's some
hey
some
man,
tight.
I'm trying to tell you, boy. I'm trying to tell you, and it's all gonna be because of Jay. Jay gonna be in the background cheering, just smiling his behind off. But squad, we appreciate y'all sincerely for taking some time to tap in. Again, Jay, where can they find you? Where can they tap in with you as well?
I'm on Instagram as Alien Hippie, or on Facebook, of course, my name, Jesus O. Ramirez. And of course, you can find me on TikTok as well as Alien Hippie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and y'all reach out to him via Gmail too, man. He be active. He get it in. Jay Subaru. But thank you for that, James.
JSubaru2000@gmail.com.
What were you about to say, James?
Man, you know me, man. I was about to tell him like why y'all following I got Jesus here, man. Feel free to follow a Greater Good Foundation, Roots Mentoring, man. Follow, me personally at jturner0121, Marcus at mastermind_Marcus. Y'all know what it is, man. It's Let's Grow Together. We appreciate y'all, family.
Thank y'all sincerely. See y'all next week.